Welcome to episode 3 of our podcast series, that is Uganda's Journey to Freedom by JBMuwonge. This episode features mainly two things. One is the countrywide tour of our president, His Excellency Kyagulanyi Ssentamu Robert, aka Bobiwine. He started. And then the other one is Museveni's continued use of violence on Bobwine and the supporters of change, plus his double standards while using state institutions like security apparatus and the like. So, let's first of all delve deep into the countrywide tour His Excellency Bobwine started. This past week, His Excellency Bobwine started on his long-awaited countrywide tour, moving across the entire country to open up NUP offices, as well meet, charge up and connect more, discuss more with the leaders in those respective regions of this country, Uganda. Bobwine is loved. People power is loved. NUP is loved. Something that actually scares Museveni to the nerves, and that's why with all this, and as well referring to the recent clash between His Excellency Bobwine and Museveni militia groups, that this guy is as police, Updf, military, local defense units, and a lot more in that category, this countrywide tour isn't going to be any different from what happened during, actually before elections. For the first 2 days, the picture, of course, is well painted for those who follow Uganda's politics. The signs are all over. It is the same kind of reaction from the state towards Bobwine. But of course, it is anticipated, and that's why His Excellency Bobwine is ever prepared for this. You need to know that on the 11th of November, His Excellency Bobwine came up and announced that he would be addressing the people of Bugishu sub-region, that is Eastern Uganda. He would address them on 12th November via BCU FM radio from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. And later he would address People Power or NUP mobilization teams in the region. When they heard of his visit to Mbale, of course, Southern Zone People Power supporters began gathering outside the radio, that is BCU FM radio. They started gathering outside the radio's premises as early as 7 a.m. that is on the 12th, to listen and then see the president whom they trusted with their vote. They voted in the recent Asham elections. Our president, Bobwine, had booked for the space a few days before, and he had actually paid for 1 hour. But upon his arrival at the station, Bobwine and other party leaders, including Joel Senyonyi, that is the party spokesperson, David Lewis Rubongoya, the general secretary, were told, of course, plus other leaders, they were told by the radio's programs manager by the name Mr. Richard Werishe that they got countless calls and directives from the RCC. RCC, you can call him the resident city commissioner, that is Mr. Washaki. They got constant and countless directives from the RCC and actually from the police, directing them not to host Bobwine. They were given direct instructions not to host him unless they risk losing their license. His Excellency Bobwine, actually, after hearing all this is what he said.
Right now we are in Bali, and we booked and paid for this radio program. We informed all necessary people that we had to inform, and we followed the law because we know that the law provides that we don't have to seek any permission to have a radio interview. Unfortunately, when we reached here, we were informed that the RDC and DPC ordered that we cannot be hosted. Therefore, they've blocked us. As the program's director has informed you, he has been blocked, and he has the keys to the studio, but he cannot let us in. We cannot force our way in. But this goes further to expose how double-standarded these people are. While other leaders are having radio interviews uninterrupted, while they're having their activities uninterrupted, you see they've blocked us from a radio program that we paid for. So we'll be proceeding to meet our leaders from the Bugishu sub-region at our offices. Thank you.
Now, for records, I'm sure you've heard that very well. For records, you need to know that this is not the first time Bobwine is being denied an opportunity to speak to the people of this region, that is Bugishu sub-region. Last year, before elections, it was the same case. He was, denied access to the radio premises, and of which he had paid, just like the way it has been for this time round. It was the same way even last time. He had paid. The only difference is that the other time, the police, the Updf, they used too much force. They employed too much kind of violence to people who had gathered to listen and actually see Bobiwine. This time around, they did the same thing, but the other time it was too much, because the other time there were very many security units, the military, the LDU, that's the local defense units, the Updf, and the other people, those security personnel that always put on masks all over their faces, So this time around, there was Updf, there was the police, and some other plain clothed security agents that he actually chased away people and as well beat them up. They were holding sticks, they were holding guns, and they some were in casual uniform. They were not putting on their uniform. So it is hard to differentiate between a thug, and then a security agent. But that is it. We are living in a dictatorship. So after being blocked, Bobiwine and the NUP leaders, they traveled to a place called Namala, where they launched the party offices amidst heavy security deployment outside. At this very place, that is Namala, the police and the other security units also continued to shoot live bullets and tear gassing people who had actually wanted to be part of this meeting. Some leaders were also blocked from accessing these premises. Just like you hear from the background, those noises of bullets and the tear gas canisters being shot. It is sad that people who are supposed to keep law and order, they are doing this kind of nonsense, and this madness has to be put to an end. So Mr. Kyagulanyi Bobiwine and other NUP leaders were later escorted out of Mbale city by security personnel who actually continued to fire live tear gas canisters and bullets to disperse supporters who actually wanted to follow His Excellency Kyagulanyi as he was leaving the Mbale city. But the big question is, why is Museveni doing all this? Because there is always a reason as to why people act in such a manner or things of that nature are done. One, Museveni, just like always, he's too scared of people power. That is a fact. He's scared of national unity platform. He's scared of the only person who managed to unite all Ugandans against Museveni's brutal dictatorship. He's scared. He's scared of Bobiwine. That's why he can't let him freely speak to the people. He thinks that people are stupid, that if Bobiwine speaks to them, he will continue to wake them more. He knows Bobiwine speaks venom to his dictatorship. He knows what happens when Bobiwine grabs that microphone to speak to the people. He knows the power of the people. He knows the power of Bobiwine and his influence in Uganda's politics. He knows very well that he is an election thief. No one voted for him. And he knows that people all over the country do not love him. So he makes sure that it is him and actually his agents that reach out to the people to continue confuse them, to continue lie to them, to continue give them fake promises and all the kind. You need to know, of recent, the FDC, that is, FDC was the main opposition political party before the coming of His Excellency Kyagulanyi Ssentamu Robert, or before the coming of the National Unity Platform. So FDC came up with their new pressure group, and actually after launching it a few days after they left and they mocked Bobiwine, they actually mocked him for his statements like Ugandans shall wear the victor's crown, saying that that was just a wave, people power was just a wave, NUP was just a wave, which is normal. And surprisingly, in their attempt to traverse Uganda selling their message, they do so freely. They do go to radio stations, TV stations, they organize gatherings and talk to the people freely without any interruptions. And the way it is for Bobiwine, as he tries to go to any radio station, is blocked, tear gas, live bullets and all that kind of thing. For these guys, they do so freely. Actually, in most cases, they always even have security guarding them to do their work. So it raises lots of questions. The same also applies to the rest of the political groupings like the NRM and the others, the DP and the rest of the political. Uganda has currently, is it 26 political parties? Yes, registered. So the others, they are allowed to carry out their, business as usual. But of course, one can simply say it is divide and rule that is at work, of which Ugandans are ahead of all these kind of Museveni tactics. They can easily read beyond actions and words. So that is not a major issue. Ugandans are awake now. Everyone understands the way Museveni operates, only that he simply just uses the power of the gun to step on the necks of innocent Ugandans. So back to the point, Bobwine was also supposed to address people of northern Uganda, specifically Lango sub-region, a region home to an estimate of close to 3 million Ugandans. He was to use Radio FM and later, that is in Lira, and later meet NUP mobilization teams in the region. All these activities were blocked. Hundreds of security officers, police, Updf surrounded him off together with his entire team. He was actually not allowed to even say a single word on radio or to the mobilization teams. He was actually not even allowed to go to the premises, those respective premises, that is the radio station and where he was supposed to meet the mobilization teams. Tear gas and live bullets rocked the entire city of Lira as he was, trying to find his way to go to those respective places. Lira is one of the districts that make up the Lango sub-region he was supposed to address. He was chased out of the region with his entire team. Regardless of all this, thousands of people actually, on hearing about the presence of their president, Bobwine, in the region, they all came up to wave at him. Actually, they, came in big numbers on the streets, in the corridors of the, buildings. They followed him up, cheering and, chanting songs of people power, songs of freedom. But in split seconds, they were as well, given their share of tear gas from the Museveni militia groups that these guys as police, UPDF, and the like. So, looking at all these incidents, you can easily say that this kind of country tour, however much it can't come to a stop, the way Museveni is going to respond is most likely, or just like you see what just happened these past 2 days, or past 2 visits he made to those different places, it is going to be exactly like the way it was before elections or during campaigns. But just like I told you, we are a kind of a generation that never gives up. Don't expect anyone to give up because of tear gas, live bullets and all that kind of disorganization and this, violence Museveni forces cause to innocent Ugandans. Uganda's journey to freedom, just like I always say, it can never be a smooth ride. It is going to have all those kind of ups and downs. It's a combination of such opposing entities. So all this is simply part of the success story. This is history in the making. So His Excellency announced that he will be also visiting western part of Uganda, actually a district. The FDC recently finished, I believe, they finished their tour. For them, they carried out activities freely. No one touched them. No one said, hey, don't go here, don't go there. They went wherever they wanted to go and did all the activities freely. So we are yet to witness how His Excellency Bobwine is going to be treated when he's in, western Uganda a few days from now. So basically that is it. I just to remind you, you've been or you are listening into our podcast series, and the title is Uganda'S Journey to Freedom. I always give you these episodes on the weekends, and you are listening to episode 3. Just to remind you, you can find it on Spotify, you can find it on Breaker, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. You can find it on Facebook as well, on YouTube, on our website, that is www.jbmuwonge.com/podcast. You can as well just ask Mr. Google and type in Uganda'S Journey to Freedom, and of course you are going to get a list of very many sites where you can get this update. We need to spread the message beyond borders of social media. Yes, and that's why I came up with this podcast. However much I put it on even social media platforms, but the major aim is to make sure that the message cuts across, because I know there are people who cannot access Facebook, or they're in countries where Facebook is not working, like currently in Uganda Facebook is blocked, but they can get this message on YouTube, they can get this message on Spotify, they can get this message on Google Podcasts, everywhere. So wherever you are, just simply push the message further. You can download this same podcast and share it in your WhatsApp groups, or find a way you can share this message. I salute you, and let's meet in episode 4.
One day,